Hi guys, welcome back to episode 3 of How to Make Hard House. What we finished off on the last part was we were putting together percussion, showing you from the drum machine, from the drum rack, putting it into a sampler, bouncing it down once you've got your groove in the drum rack, bouncing it down into audio, and also just doing a quick cut up of a loop, how you can just drag a loop in and then just chop out the bits that you don't want. Now, what we're going to touch on in this episode is we're going to move on, and we are going to now going to go into sidechain compression. I'm going to show you some of the different methods of sidechaining. There are people use lots of different ways of doing sidechain. Some people prefer to use the now more modern quick way of using a quick plugin. Which ducks the sound. Yes, that's the whole thing about sidechain compression, is just the ducking effect to allow another sound to come through. Some people prefer to still use compressors and link it to the kick, which is the very, very old-fashioned way of doing it. The original way of doing it, sorry, not old-fashioned. And the other way is actually just putting a tiny little click sound at the top of your arrangement. Now, just before we go into that part, I'll start showing you sidechain compression. Using a plugin like LFO Tool is, which is what I use, is great. It's very quick and easy, but it does have its downside. If you go into a breakdown and you start to do breakbeat, you start to do any sort of broken up beats, and you want to start sidechaining with, then that's when the LFO Tool and Ricky Morero's Kickstart, I think it's called. I didn't look it up from last time. And the other ones out there, these plugins that you can use for sidechaining, that just duck the sounds, and they're purely just a volume envelope. That's all they are. For what they're doing, the purpose of the sidechain effect is that you'll find that you won't be able to do it because with broken beats, it's broken up. Drum and bass broken up. It's not forward to the floor. So that's something else just to take into consideration. That's why when I was doing my ambient stuff, it had broken beats in it, and I was using the compressor way of using it rather than LFO Tool. So it's great to know both ways and have both ways in your arsenal when it comes to doing your sidechaining. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to show you the compressor way. Now, you can we can do it by way of sending, using one of these sends. Now, I told you I was going to come to these return tracks eventually. Now, return tracks is where you can put a chain of effects on. And like for example, it automatically starts up any initial template of Ableton will start with an instant send track, a return track of reverb and delay. Always starts with that. And it's just a straightforward reverb and a straightforward delay built into plugins. So if you want to create a new one, you can just hover over the side here. We've got one, A is reverb, B is delay, and now we're going to create a new one. So insert, not audio, not MIDI, but return track. Now that I've done that, I've now got another one. Now, if you press the tab key, you can come back to your mixing desk, and you can see over here on the right-hand side, I've got reverb, delay, return, master channel. And then you can rename it, Control R, or just right click on it, and you can rename it. Let's just call this sidechain. Now in here I can put in a compressor. So the compressor is audio effects, dynamics, compressor, and in there we've got I'm just going to drag and drop onto the sidechain anywhere along here or into the bottom part here. I'm going to drop the compressor and it will bring up the initial compressor. Then you've got this little arrow here. If you click on that, it brings up some more options on the left hand side, and on there you've got sidechain. You click on sidechain, and now you have activated the sidechain utility inside the compressor. Now there are a few things that you need to do to get this working. Now I'm going to show you. So let's first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to route this sidechain, this return effect. Return track, sorry, and the sidechain. We're going to route it over here to the kick drum. So we've got the kick, we've got the I'm stuttering now. We've got the kick drum here, as we know, pumping away. Always forget to turn my volume down. I'm not starting the video again. I'm 5 minutes in already. And there we've got the kick drum, and what we're going to do is we're routing it down here on the sidechain, on the return track. Okay, now there are a few things in here. So as I click on this, okay, you can see there's nothing much going on this compressor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull down this blue line, which is the threshold. I'm going to pull it right down to about 24 hertz. 24 hertz. Minus 24 dB. I'm going to get my words out today. Now you can see here, right, we're now getting that effect. We're getting that dip effect. Okay, and I'm going to route this. I haven't finished off with the settings yet. I'm going to route this. Let's say we're going to route it to the shaker. So here we've got the shaker. Okay. Now, over here on the right hand side of the shaker channel, you can see we've got these three squares here. Now in these boxes are the volumes, is the amount of wet effect that you're going to bring onto that channel. So the first one is A, reverb, the second one is B, the delay, and then the third one is the side chain. So if I insert and put another one in, then look, a fourth box appears, and then if so on and so forth, I insert another one, a fifth box appears. Okay, and it will appear on all of the channels. Now you can see them also here. So if I just put them back again, you see now I've got 5 on there. Okay, so on the first shaker that we're I'm going on to the second shaker, aren't we? You can see here I've got 5 on there. Let's take them off again. Now back down to 3 again. Okay, so I just deleted them back off again. So we're going to put it onto this shaker. That's a good one to give an example of. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to whack that right up so we've got the full effect of the sidechain. Now I'm going to go back to the sidechain channel. I'm going to go back to the sidechain compressor. Now as you can see, as I'm playing it, you can see the dip. You can see the duck. Now with a sidechain compression, you want to have a quick attack. So basically you want that compressor reactivating immediately, as quickly as possible, and 0.01 milliseconds is bloody quick. So you want that kicking in as quickly as possible. So you want a sharp drop, ducking that sound down. So that's when you press here. If you look at this duck, you can see it's now an instant duck, but then we've got a slow curve back up again. Well, we're going to change that. We're going to bring the ratio right up. We're going to bring the frequency right up. And you'll see it's hard to change. I'll do it while I'm doing this. Bring the gain right up. Then what I want to do is I want to have a nice curve coming up afterwards. Nice curve. So we're going to bring the release up. See it starting to change. I'm bringing that up. I can go really to the extreme here. Don't want that. So we want around about. It varies really on the sound. About between 40 and 80 hertz, no more than that. I'm getting a nice curve there at around about 70 hertz. Why do I keep saying hertz? Milliseconds. And you want to make sure on the EQ with the frequency right up that you're putting on a high pass on there. All right, not the low, not anything in between, just literally on that there, which is the high pass. Now, that is one way of doing it. Now, and as you can as you can see here, now if I play the sound and I turn this on and off, I can duck it even more. You can really dial in on the sound here. You can dial in on it with a compressor. You can make it more gradual, the ducking effect, so it's a softer ducking effect. This is what's happening here, is that compressor is kicking in and it's pulling down the sounds. Every time that kick drum hits, the compressor is ducking the sound of those shakers. Now, with this way of doing it, it means that at any point you've got that compressor set to where you want it. You can then introduce that sidechain compression to any of your channels. You just pull it into any of your channels. So let's go to the other shakers. We've got the other shakers here, haven't we? You see, it's ducking it down. But for me, I don't know. I don't know whether it's the inconsistency of it is not right. For me, I just don't like doing it this way. It's not the way that I do it, but it's the way that some people do it. Now, the other way of doing it is some people will actually just drag and drop it onto the channel, and they'll have one for each channel. So they're not using a send. They're not using a return track. So none of this will be happening. None of these will be coming up here. And they'll just be chucking the compressor onto each of the channels. So I can stick it on there. And it still works. Off, on, off, on. Okay. Now, that is one way of doing it with the compressor. But when this, sometimes you can have like a really heavy. I've got quite a tight kick on this track. Sometimes you can have quite a heavy kick, and it can affect the quality of the compression process. So what you'll see on some other people's tutorials is that what they'll do is they'll go to the top of their arrangement. They'll insert an audio track. And then they'll either get a kick drum sample. I mean, you can either we can put it in via sampler. I can show you that. Some people said, "Oh, do you ever put your kick drums in on a sampler?" Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I have done. So sometimes I don't. So let's just put a sampler in there at the top. Oh, turn it to a MIDI track. Sorry. Let's put a sampler in there. Let's go and get a kick. Any fucking kick will do. Samples. Let's get a kick. Put a kick in there. Okay, yeah. So get the kick. Pull over the sound so it's really tight. So all you're getting is those initial click of the kick, the attack, transients, whatever you want to bloody call them, and then draw in. So let's just go for one bar again. Loop. Let's draw in and insert our empty MIDI clip. Doesn't matter where you put it on here. We're going to put it on every kick. Change to 1 in 4. Every kick. Okay. And then tighten that. So what we've got is this. Not the whole kick, just a click. The nice tight kick means you're going to have this instant attack and drop of the compressor on the sidechain. Now you go back to your sidechain compressor. So let's go to the one that we had in the actual send. Let's put this back onto the sidechain group, the sidechain return track, and then what we're going to do here is where you had it on kick. It brings you up the list of all the elements that you've got in there so far, all of your channels, and you're going to go to. Oh, we're going to name that actually. Let's name that first. Rename sidechain kick, or sidechain trigger. We're going to call it a trigger. We're going to call it it's a C trigger. Let's call it that. Call it SC trigger. Don't have to mess around the volumes or anything like that, but you do want this turned off. So you want the channel. Oh, you can't see this here, so my apologies. Let me just move myself out of the way. Here you want this turned off. You want this channel turned off. Okay, you don't want that on. You also don't want it activated for recording or anything like that either. Okay, well now I'm going to move myself back again, and that means that it'll be triggering. The compressor is triggering, and then as soon as you put it onto the one you want, can start adjusting it how you want it. Full whack. Okay, right, now that's one way of doing it, and then you can have a little bit of a play with it. But you want to make sure that see that? You want to make sure that it's going straight down, then you've got this nice curve effect back up again. And that will be affected by adjusting the release, and that will bring that curve back up again. And you can just take a screenshot of that if you want to do it that way. That is one way of doing it. And then as you play through the track, you've got to copy and paste these across to where the kick drum hits. And then you can put a rounded kick drum in, a big fat rounded kick drum in, and the overall length of the kick or any effects you've got in the kick, they won't be affected. They won't affect the compressor kicking in. And sidechaining, because you're not sidechaining to your actual kick drum, you're sidechaining to the sidechain trigger. All right, that's one way of doing it. Now, the other way of doing it is scrap that altogether. You're writing your track. You've got a little bit of money to go and buy the LFO tool, which is on Xfer Records, Xfer Records. You can go and buy it from there. I never know whether I'm pronouncing that right, but that's where it is. You can get it from there. I think some of the plugin boutiques sell it now. Websites for sell plugins, I think they may do them as well, sell it as well. But I've had mine for bloody years. So we're going to bin that. Actually, no, we'll leave that there. Actually, we'll leave that return track there, because we will come back to some of the return tracks later on. Now I've got now we've got the other way, the other method of doing it. Now the other method of doing it is to have a plugin. Now a plugin, a great one, which you'll probably seen a hell of a lot of people using and always falling back to, is the awesome, very basic looking. Looks like it's been made. It's not got an attractive front, but who gives a shit? It's a fucking brilliant bit of kit. It does what it says. It does its job. It's not meant to look pretty. This is the LFO tool. It automatically starts up. Now, what I've done is I've gone to my plugins. I've got it there, and I've dropped it onto that shaker channel, the one that we were demonstrating. Now, it automatically sets itself to a preset of the sidechain. But if you don't have that on, you can just click on the presets here. Sidechain 1, boom, same one again. All right, I need to put that back on again. So I just deleted it by accident. Okay, so sidechain is on. Now, there's a little bit of a glitch with this program, and I can't believe that Steve Duda and the guys at Xfer Records still haven't sorted it out. But it clicks, you get this tiny little click that's going to happen here. So just, it's still a glitch, but you just pull it away ever so slightly. You can make this bigger if you want to as well. You just pull it away from that edge, holding onto that little white dot ever so slightly, and that will stop that little click sound from happening. God, it's a pain in the arse if you forget about it, and then you go, where is that click coming from? And you realise it's the LFO tool. So many people will feel my pain if they're watching this and they use this. So there's a few methods of this, right, that we were doing before. So now what you'll see here, let's just turn on that on its own. Now if I turn it off, and the more I pull this side down, the more it's ducking. Now what we're getting here is the same thing again. Sudden drop, curve up. Sudden drop, curve up. And you can really manipulate the curve hands on here. You can manipulate the whole of this curve. You can dial into the shape of your of the sidechaining so much more here. Because in some instances on my mid basses, I've really sort of honed in on this part here, and I didn't want it to duck hardly at all, and I've sort of done this, and it shows you on the graph there. I can't remember the name of the graph now. Is it Cinescope? That I probably said that completely wrong. Fuck it. You can see how much it's ducking by the different shades of colours, and see that how much is emptying out by the darker shade. And also you can then start to manipulate the depth once you've done that depth. And there's also a split. I'm not going to dive in too much into this actual plugin, but for now, to get you going on sidechaining, if you want to go and grab this, which is not a lot of money at all, it's definitely affordable, and it's quick and easy, and it's not heavy on your CPU either. You can quickly drag and drop it onto any of your channels, and you can quickly do sidechain and adjust how much sidechain you want on that particular element of the track. Now, the other way of doing it is what we could do is we can get all of these, and this is for all of the methods of sidechaining, get all of your, what I want to do now that I've got all of my percussion how I want it, I want to start going through, before I go on to the grouping, I want to go through and I want to start EQing it all up, okay? So, the stock plugin for Ableton is great. It's nice, it's cool, I like it, but it's a bit basic. For me personally, I'll show you both now. So the EQ8, let's go for the hi-hat first. The EQ8 has 8 bands, and I showed you, touched a little bit on this in the last one. Down here on the bottom left, you've got the different shapes in which you can EQ. So I'm just going to do a high pass filter on here to go up and lop off the low end. So just taking off all of those low end frequencies that I do not want in the mix on my hi-hat. But I use this one. I use the Fab Filter suite. The Fab Filter stuff is fucking awesome, because also in here is something called dynamic EQing. Much later down the line, I'm going to show you dynamic EQing. That's when we start to get to the advanced things, because at the moment what I'm showing you here is I'm just showing you basics, okay, to get you going, get you creating sounds, get you EQing quickly. But things like is when you start to get into the advanced and really starting honing on your sounds is when you bring in things like dynamic EQing. It's fucking amazing, guys. It really is. It changed when they brought it into FabFilter Pro Q3. I changed my world. Certainly in things like bloody when you start getting strings and things like that involved in your sounds, and oh wow, and vocals certainly so much. But anyway, I digress. So I'm going to just use the stock plugins for now, just to get you going. But personally, I do use now FabFilter Pro Q3. Well, I have for fucking quite a long time, ever since it came out. Sorry, I've got to stop swearing. Okay, so yeah, I'll lop off the low end, get rid of any of those low end frequencies coming through, give it a bit of a boost, brighten it up a little bit, make sure I've got it in the mix. Also, while I'm doing this, guys, something just while I'm EQing quickly, to get this all going right, I will get my span, and you can get this from Voxengo Span. It's free. It is a spectrum analyzer, and I use this not as much as I used to, because you just when you're writing music for a lot of years, your trust in your ears becomes better, but when you're starting out, use this. You want to be making sure that your hi-hat is sitting roughly about the same height as your kick. You can see there where my kick is, you can see there where my hi-hat's coming through. You don't really want it up there like that. I'm showing you the extremes there. You want it sitting, and remember, use your ears as well. And I'm doing this in headphones again, guys, alright? But I'm now using a visual aspect here with the spectrum analyzer. Nice happy smile on that spectrum analyzer when you're doing your kick and your hi-hat. That's what I've been told, and over the years, many years ago, people used to say, make sure there's a happy smile. Fuck, I don't know, can't come out with some fucking shit sometimes. And then I'll move on to the next one, get the clap, give that a bit of a tidy up as well. I will put an EQ on each one of my tracks, on each element of my tracks, so I can go back and hone in on that particular the equalizer on each of those tracks as I wish. And that's just something that I do. Some people put it onto the bus channel, but I'll show you that in a sec. But I do individual tracks. So I'm putting that down to around about. I like to have quite a bit of body in my claps. For now, really hard to EQ in headphones. I don't know how people produce in headphones. Well, no, they've got used to it, but I can't. I've just I need to hear the sound. But for now, I'm just giving you a quick lowdown. The claps. Let's get an EQ on the hats. Let's drop that down. Okay, pause. Yeah, so I just had to speed that up a little bit with the video, just so that you're not seeing me just go through every single bloody one and EQ it. Shakers, I will sometimes on shakers or on a groove like this, which is just a loop. I'll sometimes pull back on that tip pen around about 10k. Just to take off a little bit of the top end, because I want I want my hats, my open and closed hats to be covering that area there. Certainly my open hat. So just often I will sort of take the edge off of the any sort of grooving drum loop in there. I will take off that little bit of that top, just so allow the open hats to come through, you know. So when they're together, you know, that's not. I'm allowing that. I'm giving it space. Just giving it space, letting everything breathe in the mix, you know. Okay, so I've EQ'd all those up. And now what I want to do is, why didn't I put the EQ on the hat? Some of my apologies. Put that EQ back on the hat. EQ back on the clap, sorry. Okay, now what I want to do now is I want to group all of my percussion together. Okay. I'm going to group it all together. So I'm going to hold that. I'm going to click on the top of the percussion channel, and I'm going to click on the bottom one, holding now Shift and click on the bottom one. Then I'm going to right click and I'm going to group my tracks together. Now this is a way in Ableton of creating a bus channel. When you hear people say bus channel, this is what we've just created. I've just created a bus channel. You can still do it the old-fashioned way. I could the old-fashioned way was I could create an audio channel, and I could call this my percussion bus, and then I could route all of these. Let's call that, rename perk bus. And then what I could do is I can then click on this. Open this up a little bit, click on here, and then I could route all of my audio channels to my perk bus. That was the old way of doing it. You don't have to do that with Ableton. It's great, and that's one of the bloody brilliant things about Ableton. I can just click on that top one, hold Shift, click on the bottom one, click on the top one, hold Shift, click on the bottom one, right click, group tracks, and then they're all grouped, and I've created a bus channel. Now what I can then do is I can put effects onto the bus channel, affecting all of those percussive elements together. And as I was saying to you before, I can now go into my LFO tool, and I can put my LFO tool straight onto the bus channel. And I can now, and let's rename it. Let's keep the housekeeping right. Let's call it perk bus. I can now put my sidechain and sidechain all of them together at once. That's doing all of them at once. You can do it that way, but for me, I want to be able to hone in and dial in on any element I want at any time. And with this not being heavy on your CPU, I will put an LFO tool on anything that needs to be sidechained. Now be careful though, guys, not to over sidechain stuff, because if you over sidechain and you're dipping it too much, you can lose the energy in your track, and you end up with a track that sounds like fucking Daft Punk one more time, going ding. You don't want that. Daft Punk done it for one track, or a few tracks, but yeah, it soon got a bit too much. But But anyway, they took it to the extreme. So anyway, yeah. So you can put the good thing about a bus channel as well is you can really start to hone in on your bus channel. You can put in additional EQs. You can put in effects there, a little bit of reverbs if you wanted to. I sometimes put in an additional EQ just to really make sure there's nothing coming through in that low end. Really to make sure that I'm keeping it nice and clean. And then I can brighten it up in there. What I do is I start to add my other EQs. I have some, I start to go into a little bit more of the costly end of things, and I'll put in on my percussive channel. I'll put in a Mag EQ4. This is a fantastic plugin, and hone into the sounds in here. Really brighten them up in here. Sometimes give them a little bit of an air band. Sometimes I don't, because I think it gives a bit of a sparkle. But this is different strokes for different folks, guys. When it comes to this, there are some really cool plugins you can stock plugins you can put in here to brighten up your percussion. I think I've got here bright acoustic guitar. I can't remember where it was in here now. Is it small box? Is it small box bright? No, it's not in there. There is another one in there. Sorry, I should have done my homework a little bit on that one before talking about it. But there are some more things in there that you can use to brighten up your percussion. But initially, if you want, you can just hone in and just brighten up everything together once you've EQ'd everything up. I'll probably do another video on that, actually, about brightening up percussion and stuff. But I will put an additional EQ, my Mag EQ. Sometimes I will, I'll just put in many different types of plugins. But again, I'm not going to get into too much nitty-gritty. I'm just doing these videos to get you going and get you doing a loop and getting you putting down ideas. I will do loads of sub videos eventually on little tips and tricks on getting the brightness and stuff like that. And also, what we'll do actually with the end of this, we'll go through. We'll go through when I do the mixing down and stuff like that. That's when I'll really hone in on the sounds, and I'll teach you some more stuff, some more cool tricks of the trade that I've learned over the years. So that's Sidechain. That's how you group your tracks. That's how you can go through and start to EQ your percussion up and making sure that you're taking off that low end down the bottom there, that's not going to bleed into the bassline zone and make your tracks sound much clearer, much less muddy. I think we've touched on everything there, guys. So don't. One thing I will say is don't go down the route of trying to sidechain with auto pan. I've seen some people do it, and it's very inconsistent, and you don't get great results, guys. So please be wary of that. Next up after this, I am going to go into starting to lay down the track, and let's start getting it into more of an 8-bar loop and starting to put some ideas, some sounds on top of that. I'll show you how to do that next. Cheers, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.